part 3. Welcome back to part 3 of Merlin and the Dragons. Just a quick recap. We've got young King Arthur with nightmares. He goes and checks out things with Merlin. Merlin tells him a story of a young child named Imerus, who has visions, so to speak. He can predict things in nature and makes a prediction about an eclipse, and then the kids don't like him, and then this evil guy named Vortigern comes over, starts a war, gets his butt kicked, takes over a small village, makes all the locals build him a huge tower. His tower keeps falling, so he talks these local magicians and wizards to come check it out, and they make up a story about a child spawned by a demon, and you need to sprinkle his blood on the stones to keep it from falling over. So they find the locals, and they tell them a story of Imerus. Because he has no dad, they think he's born of a demon, and he tells them of a dream he had about these dragon eggs being underneath his towers. So they dig up the tower, find out that there are dragon eggs down there. And last time we made predictions about what would happen, so here we go. Whoa. Once, twice, 3 times hammers rang out. On the 3rd try, like jets of lightning, cracks ran around each stone, and they broke apart as if they had been giant eggs. Out of one emerged a dragon. Out of one emerged a dragon, white as new milk. Out of the other, a dragon red as old wine. Astonished at the power of his dreaming, Imerus opened and closed his mouth, but could not speak. The men in the pit scrambled for safety. The High King Vortigern looked pleased. "Kill them! Kill the dragons!" But even as he spoke, the dragons shook out their wings and leaped into the sky. "They're leaving!" cried the chief magician. "They are away!" cried the soldiers. "They will not go quite yet," whispered Imerus. No sooner had he spoken than the dragons wheeled about in the sky and faced one another. Claws out, belching flames. Their battle cries, like nails on slate, echoed in the air. Advancing on one another, the dragons clashed, chest to chest, raining teeth and scales on the ground. For hour after hour they fought, filling the air with smoke. Holy cow. Seems legit, doesn't it? We're about to have a dragon fight. Oh. No words, just pictures. That's impressive. Great illustrations. We may have to find more books by this illustrator. First, the red dragon seemed to be winning, then the white. First one drew blood, then the other. At last, with a furious slash of his jaws, the white dragon caught the red by the throat. There was a moment of silence, and then the red dragon tumbled over end until it hit the ground. The white dragon followed it down, straddling its fallen foe and screaming victory into the air with a voice like thunder. "Kill it! Kill the white now!" shouted Vortigern. As if freed from a spell, his soldiers readied their weapons. But before a single arrow could fly, the white dragon leaped back into the air and was gone, winging over the highest peak. "Just so the red dragon of Vortigern shall be defeated," Imerus said, but not so loud the high commander could hear. Cursing the fleeing dragon, Vortigern ordered the tower to be built again. Then he turned to Imerus. "If the tower does not stand this time, I will have your blood." Man, pretty gnarly dragon fight. Looks like Imrus finds a good friend. Let's see what that's all about. That night, young Imrus stared out his window, past the newly built tower. A hawk circled lazily in the sky. Suddenly, the hawk swooped down, landing on his window ledge. There was a moment of silent communion between them, as if Imrus could read the hawk's thoughts. Sorry, I was admiring the picture of the hawk again, starting right here. There was a moment of silent communion between them, as if Imrus could read the hawk's thoughts, as if the hawk could read his. Then away the hawk flew. Mountains, valleys, hillsides, forests gave way beneath the hawk's wings, until far off in the distance it spied thousands of flickering lights coming up from the south. As if in a dream, Imrus saw these things too. Emerging from his vision, Imrus turned from the window and went downstairs. He found King Vortigern by the foot of the tower. "I have seen in a vision that your fate is linked with the red dragons," Imrus cried. "You will be attacked by thousands of soldiers under the white dragon's flag, attacked and slain." Vortigern drew his sword, angry enough to kill the boy for such insolence. But at that very moment, a lookout atop the tower shouted, "Soldiers, my lord! Thousands of them!" Oh wait, let's look at the pictures. Obviously, we got some horses running, people are in a hurry. These guys are throwing stuff at the tower. Vortigern with his sword. And if you notice this flag, what color a dragon is on it? Interesting. Vortigern raced to the top of the tower stairs and stared across the valley. It was true. And as he watched further, one of the knights leading the army urged his horse forward and raced along the tower foot, shouting, "Come and meet your fate, murderous Vortigern!" Vortigern turned to his own men. "Defend me! Defend my tower!" But when they saw the numbers against them, the men all deserted. "Surrender, Vortigern!" they cried, thousands of voices. "Never!" he called back. "Never!" Man, Vortigern seems to have some really bizarre character traits, doesn't he? I mean, he kind of gets angry and demands things from people. He seems to think that he can just tell people what to do because he has a sword, or he thinks he's the strongest. But does somebody who has to yell the loudest, does that necessarily mean they're the strongest? Or does it just mean they're angry? The old wizard stopped speaking. "Well?" Arthur asked. "What happened to Vortigern? You can't end the story there." Merlin looked at him carefully. "What do you think happened?" "Vortigern was slayed, just as Imrus said." "Is that the boy speaking?" asked the wizard. "Or the king?" "The boy," admitted Arthur. "A king should forgive his enemies and make them his chiefest friends. You taught me that, Merlin. But what did happen?" "The men of the White Dragon defeated Vortigern all right, burned him up in his own tower. And that night, the one who rode up to the tower first, what became of him?" "His name was Uther Pendragon, and he eventually became the High King," Merlin said. "Uther?" mused Arthur. "He was the last High King before me. But then he was a hero. He was fit to rule. Perhaps one of his sons will come to claim my throne." "Uther had only one son," Merlin said softly, "though only I knew of it." He looked steadily at the boy. "That son was you, Arthur." "What?" Look at his face. He doesn't know what's going on. And maybe we should stop for there. I want you to try and, and relate to young King Arthur. This whole time, he thought he was a boy without a dad, without a father. And this entire time, his father was a hero king. It's pretty wild. I don't know how I would feel if I had a new family member that I just found out about. Maybe we shouldn't stop. Let's finish. Me? For a moment? Arthur's voice squeaked. Uther was my father? Then I'm not fatherless. Then I am king by right, and not just because I pulled a sword from a stone. Merlin shook his head. Don't underestimate your real strength in pulling that sword, Merlin cautioned. It took a true and worthy king to do what you did. Arthur gave a deep sigh. Why did you not tell me this before? The old wizard's hawk eyes opened wide. I could not tell you until you were ready. There are rules for prophets, just as there are rules for kings. So now I am king in truth? Merlin smiled. You were always king in truth. Only you doubted it. So you can thank your dreams for waking you up. What of Emrys? Arthur asked. What happened to him? Oh, he's still around, replied the wizard. Went on dreaming, made a career of it. He rummaged around in some old boxes and crates by the desk until he found what he was looking for. I still have this. Saved it all this time. He tossed a large yellow dragon's tooth across to Arthur. As you can see, this tooth, huge, right? Like it's as big as his head. Sudden recognition dawned on Arthur's face. You? You saved this? Then you were the boy named Emrys. Surely you guessed that before, Merlin teased. But now perhaps we can both go back to sleep. Thank you, Merlin, Arthur said. I don't think I shall dream any more bad dreams. Merlin's gnarled fingers caged the boy's hand for a moment. But you shall dream, he said quietly. Great men dream great dreams, and I have dreamed your greatness. He plucked the crown from the desktop. Don't forget this, my lord king. Arthur took the crown and placed it carefully on his head. Then he turned, went out the door, and went down the tower stairs. Merlin watched for a moment more, then sank back down in his chair. Closing his eyes, he fell immediately to sleep, dreaming of knights and a round table. The end. Huh. Pretty interesting book. I want to know what you thought of it. So, in our discussion today, I want you to let me know if you recommend this book. Would you recommend this book to anybody else in the Green Pod to read? Give it a ranking out of 5 stars and we'll see what happens. Thanks for reading.